The Italian news people just did something that never happens. They got mad at Ferrari. And what they said about Lewis Hamilton will totally surprise you. But here's the thing. Hamilton wasn't perfect at the Silverstone race either. He actually made mistakes that cost him a spot on the winner's podium. So why are the tifosi, the biggest Ferrari fans in the world, suddenly protecting a driver who couldn't even pass a slower Sauber car for 17 laps? What I'm about to tell you will change everything you thought you knew about Hamilton's first season at Ferrari, because this isn't just about one bad race. This is about a 40-year-old racing legend fighting for his place in history while his own team works against him. And the Italian fans have seen enough. Problem gets worse. Let me tell you the terrible picture of what really happened at Silverstone. Because while everyone was celebrating podium finishes, Lewis Hamilton was living through his worst nightmare. The embarrassing defeat for 17 laps. 17 laps. A 7-time world champion, the master of Silverstone, the man who's won more British races than anyone in history couldn't pass Nico Hülkenberg in a Sauber. Think about that for a second. This is the same Lewis Hamilton who won at Silverstone in 2008 by 68 seconds in the rain. The same man who crossed the finish line on 3 wheels in 2020, and now he's stuck behind a car that had only scored 29 points in 11 races. But here's what nobody is talking about. Hamilton made big mistakes that cost him the podium. At one point he was close enough to use DRS on Hülkenberg, but he went off the track. Not once, not twice, but many times. Turn 3, Turn 9, Turn 11. Hamilton was all over the place. His radio message after the race said it all. "Oh mate, that was pretty bad overall. So much opportunity there that was missed." But that's nothing compared to what happened next. The strategy sabotage. Here's where it gets really annoying. Ferrari dropped Hamilton from 4th place to 8th place after the first pit stop. 4th to 8th. How do you mess up that badly? But when Hamilton questioned the strategy, listen to what his race engineer Riccardo Adami had to say. Actually, you know, what Adami barely had anything to say. And that's the problem. Remember Miami? When Hamilton was getting frustrated with Adami's slow decisions, he snapped, "Have a tea break while you're at it." The pattern is clear. Hamilton is being let down by his own team, race after race after race. But here's the most shocking part. The Italian media, the people who live and breathe Ferrari, just threw their own team under the bus to defend Lewis Hamilton. The never-before-seen Italian uprising Gazzetta dello Sport just published something that has never happened in Ferrari's history. They basically told Ferrari management, listen to Hamilton or keep losing. Here's what they wrote, and I'm putting it in simpler words. Ferrari hired a 7-time world champion who's won more titles since 2008 than Ferrari has won in the same time period. 0. Maybe it's time to listen to him instead of forcing him to adapt to a broken system. But that's nothing compared to what happened next. False resolution. Now, you might think this is just about Hamilton having a bad day and the Italian media overreacting. Fair enough. Even legends have off days, right? Hamilton made mistakes. Ferrari made mistakes. Racing is complicated. Wrong. Here's what they don't want you to know. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was the result of months of constant failure, and the Italian fans have been watching it all happen. The pattern of sabotage. Since Hamilton joined Ferrari, there's been a clear pattern. Every time Lewis gives feedback about the car, every time he suggests a strategic change, every time he tries to use his experience to help the team, he gets ignored. Remember his feedback about the car being too extreme? The Italian media picked up on this. They're saying Ferrari needs to build a car with a good foundation that makes life easier for the drivers. But has Ferrari listened? No. And here's the kicker. While Hamilton is struggling with a car that doesn't suit his style, Charles is having his own meltdown. At Silverstone, finished 14th and was completely lost on the radio. What are we doing? I'm at a loss of words. But you might think this explains everything. To drivers struggling with the same car problems. But here's what they don't want you to know. The Italian fans aren't just defending Hamilton, they're attacking Ferrari's management structure. And what they're saying is absolutely explosive. The Tifosi Rebellion. For the first time in decades, the Italian media is telling Ferrari that they're the problem, not their drivers. Gazzetta dello Sport wrote, "Those who want everything right away and don't know how F1 works consider their difficulties as a consequence of a decline of the champion of the past." They're basically saying, stop blaming Hamilton for your incompetence. But the most shocking part, they're demanding Ferrari completely change their philosophy. Not just strategy tweaks, not just car updates, a complete philosophical overhaul of how Ferrari operates. And if Ferrari doesn't listen, the Italian fans are prepared to turn on their own team. The revelation, what I'm about to tell you, will change how you see Hamilton's entire Ferrari career, because Silverstone wasn't just a bad race, it was a test. And the results have revealed something that nobody expected. The real truth about Hamilton's mistakes. Yes, Hamilton made errors at Silverstone. Yes, he couldn't overtake Hülkenberg. Yes, he went off track multiple times. But here's what the data shows. Hamilton was driving a car that was basically broken for the conditions. The Italian media revealed something important. Hamilton has been telling Ferrari for months that the car is too extreme. The setup is impossible to drive consistently, and at Silverstone in changing conditions. That extremeness became a problem. But here's the kicker: Hamilton knew this would happen. In the pre-race briefing, he specifically warned about the car's behavior in mixed conditions, and Ferrari ignored him. The numbers that prove everything. Here's the data that nobody is talking about. Since 2008, Lewis Hamilton has won 7 World Championships. Ferrari has won 0. In the same period, Hamilton has won 62 races. Ferrari as a team has won 31. The Italian media is basically saying, why are we not listening to the guy who's been winning while we've been losing? And here's the most damning statistic. At Silverstone, Hamilton was consistently faster than in comparable sectors despite the mistakes. Even on his worst day, Hamilton was showing more pace than Ferrari's supposed future, consequences, and stakes. So, what happens next? Because what I'm about to tell you will determine whether Hamilton's Ferrari career becomes a redemption story or a complete disaster. The Hungarian Ultimatum Hungary is in 2 weeks, and according to sources, it's being treated as a make-or-break moment for Ferrari's relationship with Hamilton. If they continue to ignore his feedback, if they continue to give him a car that's impossible to drive consistently, the Italian media backlash will only get worse. But here's what's really at stake. Hamilton's legacy. At 40 years old, he doesn't have time for Ferrari to figure it out. Every race that passes without a win is another nail in the coffin of his 8th championship dreams. The Charles Leclerc problem. And let's not forget about Charles. While Hamilton is fighting the car and the team, Leclerc is having his own crisis. His 14th place finish at Silverstone, his radio meltdowns, his complete lack of pace. The Italian media is starting to question whether he's really Ferrari's future. The comparison is becoming unavoidable. Hamilton, with all his mistakes, still finished 4th. Leclerc, with a supposedly better-suited car, finished 14th. What does that tell you about who Ferrari should be listening to? Unresolved cliffhanger? But that leaves us with 4 massive questions that could determine Hamilton's entire legacy. Question 1. The management revolution. Will Ferrari finally listen to the Italian media and completely overhaul their approach? Or will they continue to waste Hamilton's final years with their stubborn refusal to change? My sources tell me there are heated discussions happening in Maranello right now. Question 2. The Hungary test. Hungary will be the real test. Will Ferrari give Hamilton the setup he's been asking for? Will they finally implement his feedback? Or will we see another race where Hamilton is fighting his own team more than his competitors? Question 3. The Leclerc dilemma. How long can Ferrari ignore the gap between Hamilton and Leclerc? Even on Hamilton's worst day, he outperformed their supposed future star. What happens when the Italian media starts questioning whether they're backing the wrong horse? Question 4. The legacy stakes. This is Hamilton's legacy on the line. Every race that passes without a win makes that 8th championship more unlikely. How long will he tolerate Ferrari's incompetence before he starts thinking about other options? Here's what I'll be watching for at Hungary. First, Hamilton's setup. If Ferrari gives him the less extreme car he's been asking for, we'll know they're finally listening. Second, the radio communications. If we hear more frustration between Hamilton and Adamia, nothing has changed. Third, the Italian media reaction. If Hamilton has another difficult race, the Tifosi will turn up the pressure even more. But most importantly, watch Hamilton's body language, because a 40-year-old legend doesn't have time for patience. He needs results now, or he needs to make some serious decisions about his future. The Italian fans have spoken. They want Ferrari to listen to Hamilton. The question is Ferrari brave enough to admit they've been wrong?